as I switched streams. So no one heard your snafu, Cage. So we're going to act like it didn't happen. Nothing happened. All Kajan said was that Bogdan Bogdanovic is a great player for Serbia, and he will be the X factor. He will be the best player for the Serbs when that game commences. And that's our story, and we're sticking to it, aren't we, Kajan?
Yes, sir.
As we are again just moments away from the third quarter beginning, if it hasn't already. Again, I'm wearing a lot of hats around here at the Outrage as the third quarter has now just begun.
There's like 5 seconds left on the shot clock.
I think you're just a little bit ahead of me, Kajan, as another foul called there as Olynyk gets the off-ball foul, or gets the I guess behind the 3-point line foul, the on the floor foul, not a shooting foul. That's what I was trying to go with.
Mm-hmm. And a big and one dunk there for R.J. Barrett as he hangs on the rim and taps the backboard for good measure.
Now, Cajun, something you and I have been complimentary of is R.J. Barrett at this tournament. And let's be honest, this is not New York Knicks R.J. Barrett. This is Duke R.J. Barrett.
Yes, sir.
This is the killer. This is the driver. This is the attacker R.J. Barrett who gets the N1.
And it's a welcome sight to see. Now, that three may have been wide open for Slovenia, but his feet were not set at all. And that looked like there should have been another N1, but no continuation there. And that's 3 team fouls on Slovenia already. And we're not even 2 minutes in. Or not even a minute in, my bad. Seeing this version of RJ Barrett makes me sad to see him on the Knicks.
But then it makes you hopeful, Cajun, that maybe, just maybe, that this RJ Barrett could show up for the New York Knicks. And if that did happen, as RJ again is seemingly waited to the fourth quarter to say, you know what, Cajun and Spencer, I'm gonna take this game over. Put Tannen on my back. No offense to SGA, Brooks had a good game, obviously. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, been singing his praises here tonight, but RJ Barrett 24 points. He's averaging 13 a night before this game, as SGA will get the foul.
And color me surprised, the Slovenians are complaining. And did they call it tech?
We're gonna see, and if it's on Doncic, that I'm not sure if that'll be an ejection, Cajun, but it's definitely trouble.
I don't think it was on Doncic. It was on Gregor Rovat.
Yeah, and do pardon us. We have not even attempted most of these Slovenian names because, as we learned in the media business, if you don't know, you don't say. So, we don't know, we don't say. That's about as much as Cajun and I do now, don't we?
Yep. A rare miss at the free throw line there from SGA.
He has been kind of. I'm not gonna try to convince that he's been bad from the free throw line because he hasn't. He has missed a couple, Cage. He has I'll say consistently missed 1 or 2 every game, which is expected. No offense, it's nigh impossible to be perfect from behind the free throw line.
Unless you're Jose Calderon in that one season.
Or former Canadian best Steve Nash. Steve Nash was a absolute dynamite from behind the free throw line.
Oh, absolutely.
Arguably one of the best ever is Canada now back up big here, 87-71, as Slovenia will get the 3-point attempt here at the free throw line as Olynyk again is barking at the referee. Again, trying to paint ourselves as not biased here in favor of the white shirts, but Olynyk is the only guy as a Canadian fan I want to see barking at the referees. And again, I'm not going to say he has a case, Cajun. He is inside the cylinder. Not allowed to be inside the cylinder of a shooting player as he makes number one. But, again, it's a foul where it's like, yeah, it's a foul, but no, maybe not. Type of foul, you know what I mean, Cage?
Mm-hmm.
As he makes all three. Slovenia back down by 13. SGA now off the slip, and they're going to call a charge against SGA as Doncic now finally got a smile.
Nope. It wasn't. It was a foul on Luka.
Oh, I thought they called the charge, Cage. My bad. I guess they called the block there. Which, again, he is moving. It's slight, but it's enough. They started calling more charges in today's NBA, but they still definitely don't want to give it to you easy, Cage. Definitely want to give it to you easy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his four. Or pardon me.
It's his fourth.
I believe it's his fourth. The Sportsnet broadcast worried me there with that graphic they popped up of Zoran Dragic having 2 fouls, which worries me that maybe it wasn't on Lucas somehow, which would be rather surprising.
It might not have been if they had showed it.
As SGA makes both. So maybe he's still on 3, Cage. You and I can't check it because the FIBA website is inconsistent to say the least. And Google will not tell us. As I want to also mention, Nickeil Alexander-Walker has got 26. What?
It was on Zoran Dragic.
It was on Zoran Dragic. So Luka does not get a fourth. He's still on number 3. And if that graphic is right, Cage, that Nickeil Alexander-Walker's got 13 in the first and second half so far, which means he's got 26. Alexander Walker thought about shooting it, and he'll turn it over. Trying to pass it over to his, I believe you said cousin, Shea Alexander. Nice pass there by Doncic. To the inside, big man, and it's a make. And Luka still giving the referee looks here.
He should be playing defense on Dillon Brooks.
And that's another 3 make there by Dillon Brooks. And Slovenia take another timeout.
And as a Canadian fan, this is a sight you'd love to see, like Slovenia just going off on the referees. Because we saw this when the Canadians did this against Brazil.
And I'll make sure I say that we weren't happy about it when we saw Canadians doing it.
We were not.
With the moment you lose focus in any sport, the game is almost always over. Because it's almost impossible to regain your focus when you've lost it. That's a reality. So I mean, we've seen the Slovenians barking since basically the second quarter on, which I'm not going to say they've been that because they were really close in the second quarter. Again, they were tied at half, but the third quarter when the Canadians started pulling away, you really saw the frustration from the Slovenians from the European side, and the moment you lose focus like that, and again, I'm a darts fan. I've been open about my love of darts on the outrage and in my Spencer Talks and stuff like that. Like when a player is playing against. And Dillon Brooks said something there with Slovenian players, I think what they wanted a tech called there for. But anyway.
I think he just got tossed.
Did Dillon Brooks get the second tech?
He did.
Yeah, Dillon Brooks is going for a shower. 24 points for Dillon Brooks, and he's disqualifying foul. I guess he said something a little too graphic there to the Slovenian player, and we're not going to slander him on the show. We've agreed we're not going to slander him on this show. So, Luka Doncic will take the free throw,
but also
and he'll make number 1.
Can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of the words I want to use here. I'm going to say it's a dumb foul by the Canadian. It's a dumb foul. It's something that wasn't needed, wasn't necessary, and is costing his team with having now Lou Dort be forced to guard Luka. I'm not going to act like that's a big I think Dort's probably a better defender than Dillon Brooks. As they called Dort for a foul. I'm not sure I'm happy about that one either, Cajun, but I'm going to let that one slide. As now Dort's got 4 fouls. So if Dort fouls out now, Doncic is going to be guarded by I don't even know who yet. Maybe RJ?
Maybe
Maybe.
SGA, maybe Powell.
I'm not sure I want to see SGA on Luka. I'm not sure I like that matchup personally, as they miss the 3 off Dort and they'll get back possession.
Maybe not, but like just to give Luca different looks.
Well, I think they will probably switch between defenders because if Dort or Brooks are on him, which if Dort fouls out, neither will be on him, we'll see exactly what the Canadians go with here. As Doncic again looking for the foul against
And I
Dort,
think
and they're going to
Luca might
tech
have
him.
just gone tossed.
And I think they did just toss Luka. That's be his second tech. He just got teed up again, and if that means Luka got second tech and is done, that might be the end. And it is a disqualifying foul as he claps the referees here.
And says something that we will not say on this broadcast on the stream.
And I don't think Luka's got a case there. I don't think Luka's got a case there, man. I don't. Personally, I don't think Luka's got a case there. So now Canada will have the free throw and the possession. And I think Luka walking to the locker room will be the end of the Slovenian tournament. They will now have to play in basically a little under 24 hours time against Lithuania in the 5 through 8 games tomorrow, which is Thursday. While Canada we get to wake up bright and early, Kajan, 4:45 semifinal.
It's a good thing we don't have to do that on Thursday.
It's a good thing we don't have to do that on Thursday. So you'll have a Polar Opposites episode out tomorrow, you'd hope, between you and I, Cage, but we'll definitely bring you Canada versus Serbia semifinal. Canada guaranteed a medal game no matter what if they win this one, as Olynyk will miss that one. Dort couldn't rebound it, and Dort will have to get back now. Now you gotta wonder who Dort's gonna guard with Doncic off the floor, Cage.
And bold statement here, but this was the sacrifice Dylan Brooks had to take.
I mean, you can make it that way, Cage. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I agree with you, but I
That's the
understand what you're
story I'm
saying.
sticking with.
That's your narrative out of this game, Cage. Okay, you know what? I respect that. And they're gonna call Nikhil Alexander Walker there on the foul. Ooh, wait! I think they called it against Slovenia, and they might get another tech here. I'm surprised they didn't tee him up there. Oh, and they might tech him here. Yeah, I think they might tee him. I'm surprised they didn't tee him up there because they teed up. Well, they did call Nikhil Alexander Walker. I'm kind of confused why he was still barking the referee though.
Sometimes players complain that it doesn't make sense.
I'm not exactly sure what that one was. That shot up, no good, rebounded by RJ Barrett. And Nikhil Alexander Walker thought about shooting it, trying to get to the hole here, and they're going to call the foul there, as that's another battle between Nikhil Alexander Walker.
Things are starting to get a little chippy now. Except it's not between the refs now, it's between the two teams.
Ooh, I'm surprised they didn't call it a tech there, Cage, on the extra whack. Did you see that on your replay?
I did.
Priplevich, and I think you and I have agreed to say it, as he and I think gets subbed out before he gets himself kicked out. Oh no, there's kind of a little conference on the floor. As number 1 is made by Nikhil Alexander Walker. Canada almost to a 20-point lead. They're at 17 currently. Nikhil Alexander Walker's actually only got 14, so it wasn't 13 and 13. It was 13 in the first half, and he hadn't scored until now, and he misses the second free throw.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell if that graphic meant 13 and 13, or if it meant 13 total. As Olynyk now, I believe, got a block on that, but they're going to call the foul on him regardless.
I think he also got a bit of his head too before the block.
And Cajun, I think you got to wonder for the Slovenians and for the Canadians, with the score this lopsided, and the game without Luka Doncic, especially for the Slovenians, does this mean you start playing some of the younger guys that haven't played a whole lot this tournament? Yeah, I understand. You still want to win, you still want to compete, but at the end of the day, is the experience more important, especially when you still have another game tomorrow against Lithuania? As Dragic makes one of
Are you talking about
two.
Slovenia or Canada?
I mean both, Cage. Slovenia specifically because they're missing Doncic, but I think the Canadians are in the same story here. Is inside for Powell. Surprise, that's not a foul, but regardless, got to play on. The other way come the Slovenians, and they miss the layup, but they get the offensive. And the three is good for the blue shirts. And again, Slovenia, in fairness of them barking at the referees, they have not quit yet. I do want to mention, no, SGA is on the floor. I thought I didn't see him there for a second. Barrett now driving. Barrett no good. Rebounded by Powell, who gets it poked away, and now Slovenia go the other way.
I think you got to call timeout right now.
And they do. Slovenia is having a lot of fight back here without Doncic. And kind of throwing my point back in my face with the Canadian timeout here.
But you could argue with Luka out, they could play more freely instead of like watching Luka go to work.
Yeah, it's a weird conundrum, Cajun, isn't it? When the best player goes out and the team plays better because they're not focused. You can't focus on one guy, right? You can't force you can't force your defense onto one guy because Luka's not going to take all the shots, right? That's just not the way this Slovenian team works that way, right? So, I do agree with you in that, even though they lost their best player, easily their best player, you could argue that even with that, it could make them a more dangerous team because now who do they key out on? I would say Preplovic is easily the number one option for Slovenia, but he doesn't need to be. He's not a Luka Doncic type of player where you're going to force him the ball.
Mm-hmm. And as we heard it on the broadcast, you need Slovenia needs a lot of offense, and they lost their best offensive player of the game. Canada needs defense, and they lost their best defensive player in Dylan Brooks.
And might lose their arguably second best in Lou Dort, who's got 4 fouls right now. He's on the floor. Barrett. Ooh, shake and bake. Can't make the jumper go. Oh, that's
All of
too
a sudden, it's a
easy.
single-digit game.
That was too easy there by the Canadians. They really got to make this. They really got to tighten up here on defense. Alexander Walker thought about shooting it, and they're going to call a block on Slovenia. I think he fouled out as he already flips over to the bench.
I think that's more so a non-call.
You think it was an even exchange?
I don't think it was a block. I don't think it was a charge either.
That is another foul out for Slovenia, so that's their second player out. After obviously Doncic got himself kicked out. As now Nickeil Alexander-Walker, as he stares intently at the rim. Lou Dort now sitting out with 4 fouls. Has one more before he is out.
Before he is DQ'd.
Before he joins the litany of bodies now that are disqualified from tonight, as Alexander Walker missed his number 1. Just under 4 minutes left in this game. He just showed up Shea stats of 27 points and 5 rebounds with about 4 minutes left here again in this fourth quarter.
And he missed both.
That's not a good sign here for Canada. Gotta wonder if the crowd played a factor in that one. 8-0 run here for Slovenia. And that one doesn't go, but they get another offensive rebound. Another shot by Slovenia.
Did not cost them.
They miss another 3 to Slovenia. Again, maybe that's a little too much when they get all of it too soon, Cage. Play a little bit smarter there with so much time. SGA, shake, bake, almost lost possession. Dwight Powell now for Kelly Olynyk. Rattles out, but RJ got the offensive. RJ for Powell, who gives it off to SGA. The first team All NBAer.
And
Driving
a big
up
and one.
and one. And SGA got that beautiful smile there as Zoran Dragic, I think, got another foul, which is his third.
And SGA, if he makes his free throw, I believe we'll have a 30-point game.
You have a 30-piece. He's getting the family meal.
The supersized meal.
I mean, it'll probably only feed your family, Cajun. It would feed everyone living in this house about 3 or 4 times over. Where you are, Cajun, might just feed you for a night.
Yeah, probably. But we spoke too soon. He's still at 29 as he missed the free throw.
Well, Cage, he's still got 3 minutes here to cook. As that ball is up, no good, off the rim, and RJ will rebound it. And again, you do have to wonder here for both sides when those reserves will come in. Again, I'm not saying Slovenia can't take a chunk out of this lead, but you still got to think about playing a game in 24 hours, right? Like, I feel like that's got to take an effect here for either side. As SGA step back at the end of the shot clock, no good, gets his own rebound for Barrett for 3. It rattles out. SGA gets another rebound, and he's getting absolutely whacked there as he'll go down. And thank goodness there's a little bit of respect there by the Slovenians after the hard whack, and we're good to go. Because you and I did talk about how there was a little bit of pressure there, and that was actually by the guy that Nikhil Alexander-Walker got into it with there in Presplovic. Or Pre-Plevic, pardon me.
Prepelich?
Oh, you're going itch, not ick? We'll go itch then. I'm with you, Cajun.
Because Luka Doncic.
I guess. That's another thing, Cage, that, I'll never, will make sense to me. It's an itch or it's an ick, and I don't know which. And
Which one's which?
exactly. I feel like Dr. Seuss right now, as Shea is now over 30, as Canada is 2 points away from 100 for a full bill here tonight, as RJ Barrett, pardon me, had those free throws. He's now 5 for 5.
Was that Barrett or SGA?
I thought it was SGA, but they showed up Barrett's number, so I'm not exactly sure what Sportsnet's doing to me. But that's a make there for Slovenia.
But
I'm surprised they didn't show SGA stats, because I believe with those free throws he's now at 30. But anyway. So I'll say the Sportsnet team confused me. I do want to mention here, it looks like Slovenia has gone to like a zone. As Nikhil Alexander-Walker, no good, rebounded by SGA. That is the problem with a zone, Cajun, is if you're in a zone, rebounding can be an issue. Looks like they're back into a man here. RJ for 3. It's no good. Popped up by Powell and rebounded by Slovenia. Chance to run here. They'll go up, and that will be a foul on Powell there against Dragic. But I definitely am happy to see occasion that these cooler heads have prevailed here in this fourth quarter, because you and I did get worried that with that Nikhil Alexander-Walker and Prevplovich, as I can say it out by syllable, went at it, that nothing else has come of their...
Clement Prepelich.
His name is Clement. I did Google that. I wanted to see what he played, who he played for, and he's played for Valencia most recently. Also played for Juventus as well as Real Madrid. Valencia and Real Madrid of the Spanish league, while Juventus of the Italian league. Or actually, no, pardon me, it wasn't Juventus. It was another team I actually never heard of. I believe it was Joven Tut, I believe is how it's spelt. I'm not sure how it's said. I'm not sure what country they're from. So, anyway, as now it's real pressure here by the Slovenians. Barrett misses. Olynyk misses, but Olynyk cleans up his own garbage. and now
and
Canada's at 100.
that might be GG's
And if it
if it
isn't
wasn't
Cajun,
already.
yeah, you'd think the game has kind of been over no offense to Slovenia, who definitely have made a valiant effort without their star player Luka Doncic, who should be back against Lithuania. I'm not sure if disqualifying has anything to do with post game. If there could be like a suspension, I'm not exactly sure. I assume not. Double for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. He's now got 31 and 10. As he might just run out the clock here. Yeah, I think he is. They're just gonna take the shot clock violation here.
Show
And
respect.
and that will mean that Slovenia will have the last possession of the game you'd expect. We'll see if they run the clock out. If they just clear it and run, looks like they will just clear it and run the clock out. They will not try to score points. And I will not argue with the way the Canadians ended this, but I will say personally, Cajun, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine when teams do that. Personally, for me.
Why is that?
Well, it's the line of logic, Cajun. What's more respectful? Stop playing or continue to play? For me, as a very low level athlete, house league at best, for me, I would rather lose by 10 and know that they scored 10 goals and that's as many as they could have scored, than Doncic's back out, by the way, shaking hands with the Canadians. So that is also nice to see that Doncic is back out shaking hands after the game. I wonder if Dylan Brooks came back out. I expect he did. We just haven't seen him yet on the broadcast. But anyway, to finish my point, then lose by, say, 5 or 6 goals and know they could have scored 10. You know what I mean, Cajun? I really dislike when teams don't try when there's still time on the clock, regardless of score, regardless of situation. If there's still time on the clock, I want to see you play because I think it is more respectful to your opponent to try than not to try. And as a guy who would love to coach, I can never look at an athlete and say, I want you to stop trying because we're up so much or down so much. That just doesn't work for me, personally, for me. And, if I'm wrong and you disagree with me, I'm okay with that. If you think it's more respectful to tell your team to put it in neutral, I'm okay with that. But personally for me, as they show the graphic that Germany will play America on Friday, while Canada will play Serbia. Canada versus Serbia, 4:45 start. Chage and I will be up bright and early before the Roosters are up.
As you see,
Dylan Brooks with the boxing gloves there in the tunnel. So he didn't come out to shake hands, obviously. As he's having fun there with the coaching staff, as I think the rest of the guys are about to come.
if he retires from basketball, boxing could be his go-to.
He might join the Misfits over there with DAZN and become a influencer boxer.
Bruh,
Join
not
Nate
this.
Robinson.
Nah.
Not liking his chances, Cajun? Not liking his chances?
I did until you compared him to Nate.
Whoops, my bad. He's a little taller than Nate, in fairness.
A little.
Nate's about 4 foot nothing.
You
That's
can
no
never
offense
tell
to Nate
by the way he
Robinson.
jumps.
And that is no offense to Nate Robinson, by the way. But what a game by Canada. We finally saw a great offensive performance. Shea went 8 for 12 from the floor with 31 points and 10 rebounds to finish off his night as Canada win 100-89 over Slovenia. And now we'll go into the semifinals, guaranteeing themselves a medal game. It's just now to decide if they're going to the gold or if Serbia's going to the gold. And Cajun, before we go, what is your expectation going into the Serbia game on Friday? For
Well, the
Canada,
Serbian team
specifically.
is still a powerhouse,
The best player in the world.
even without the best player in the world, in Nikola Jokic. No doubt about it. And they clearly showed that against Lithuania, a team who beat the USA but had no answers for Serbia.
Or again, also averaging the second most points at this tournament at 98.
And it isn't just Bogdan Bogdanovic. They got a ton of guys there. They got a ton of guys there that do their job, and they also have a advantage in terms of, and it's not really on the court either. They're playing for one of their fellow teammates who actually lost a kidney at the Basketball World Cup. I don't know if you heard about this, but Barisa Simonik, he got hit by a player's elbow from South Sudan during a pool game on August 30th, and he needed to have surgery. And there were complications from that operation, which meant he needed to have another surgery, and one of his kidneys ended up being removed. So Serbia is not only clicking on all cylinders, they're also playing for one of their foreign teammates. So that's a dangerous opponent to play. And now this sort of defensive effort isn't going to cut it against Serbia, but offensively, I really like what I saw from Canada. The ball was zipping. It it From the looks of it, it looked like Shea went. You would think like Shea went off and nobody else, but that wasn't the case. Shea had 31, but RJ Barrett had 24. Dylan Brooks, before he got tossed, had 14 on a very efficient 5 of 7 from the field. Nikhil Alexander Walker had 13. Kelly Olynyk had 7. Lou Dort had 8. The ball was just zipping all over the floor. The ball was just zipping all over the floor. Um, in the third quarter, defensively, Slovenia got whatever they wanted in that first half, but the first 5-6 minutes of that third quarter really changed things up, changed the complexion of this game for Canada because they finally got some stops and it led to baskets in transition, and that basically decided the game for Canada. But Serbia is going to be their toughest test yet, and yes, I said toughest in spite of the fact that they played Spain. Because Serbia, even without Jokic, is a different animal.
Different animal indeed. And Cajun, before we go, I do also want to talk about U.S. versus Germany in the other semifinal. Again, both, Canada in the semifinals are guaranteed a medal game. They either will play in the bronze medal or the gold medal, the World Cup game, of course. But I want to look at the loser pool first. Italy versus Latvia, Lithuania now versus Slovenia. All four of those teams will play at least one more game on Saturday. Winners and losers obviously will play against each other in the 5 versus 6 game and the 7 versus 8 game. But Cage, still some really good ball tomorrow morning. I give the edges to Latvia over Italy and Slovenia versus Lithuania at 8:30 tomorrow. It's going to be a great game. Who do you give the edge to in tomorrow's games?
I think I give Latvia the edge over Italy because they've been really good throughout this tournament. Um, and in terms of Lithuania versus Slovenia, I think the edge that Lithuania has on the like in terms of their bigs is going to overwhelm Slovenia to a degree. So I'm going to give that edge to Lithuania.
And then obviously Americans versus Germany. The winner of that will go into the final of the FIBA World Cup 2023. They will play the winner, obviously, of Serbia, Canada. Do you like the States over Germany, Cajun, or do you like Dennis Schroeder and the Germans?
Correct me if I am wrong, but Germany might be the only remaining unbeaten team in the tournament.
I believe you're right. I will quickly take a little gander here at the team stats for specifically the German national team. But I think you may be right. Let's take a little gander. They beat Japan, they beat Australia, they beat Finland, they beat Georgia, they beat Slovenia, and they beat Latvia. So yes, the Germans are the only undefeated team left, the only team unblemished in this tournament. Yes, Canada beat them, but that was in pre-tournament games, not in the World Cup. I do want to mention though, Australia only lost by 3, 85-82, and they only beat Latvia by 2, 81-79. But every other game, they blew out the competition, including 3 straight games, including a win over Slovenia, big 171. They beat Georgia 173 and beat Finland 101-75. So this German team can put up numbers. So
And
we'll
it's
see
not
what
just
German team shows up.
and it's not just Dennis Schroeder. It's the Wagner brothers too, Franz and Mo.
Even though Franz and Mo don't start, which does surprise me occasionally that Franz does not start for this German team, as good as he's been with the Orlando Magic, but he has been a spark plug, I guess, for them off the bench.
Sometimes sometimes that's what works. Sometimes it depends on what would work for your most optimal lineup. And Franz being a spark plug works for Germany. Now they are going to have their toughest test yet against the USA, who I argue kind of lucked out with like the draw that they were given.
No offense to Italy either on that one, but I think you and I expected they were going to play Serbia, which was going to be a absolute great
I was
game.
I'm still trying to figure out like how did
I
Italy.
think it's head to head because you and I talked about how we thought it was was point differential. I think in that division because I'll say I assume that Serbia had beaten Italy prior. That I assume that is actually Italy. Yeah, Italy beat Serbia by 2, so I assume that's what dictated it. Is that they were tied, but because Italy had beaten Serbia previous, the head to head mattered first. So Italy got the nod over Serbia, which is lucky for the Americans because again, as you mentioned, they will not now instead of having to play Serbia in the quarters, might have to play them in the final. Again, just showing how tournament style, events are very much matchup based more than roster based. It's who you play and when you play them.
Yep.
And the Americans got a chance to not play Serbia until the final if they both obviously win their semis. But note, as you mentioned previous, that Germany is the only undefeated team left at the FIBA World Cup 2023 across the pond there in the Philippines, Japan, and Indonesia.
Do we potentially see, and I mean potentially see, a Mo Wagner masterclass?
You're saying Mo over Franz Wagner? Really?
Because Franz is what you expect.
Oh, okay. So you're doing what we said for Dylan Brooks, is you know what Franz is going to give you. It's if Mo can give you, 15 and 10 off the bench.
Yep. Or even Daniel Tice, like, because the one struggle that this USA team does have is if they play against a big. And Wagner's had his moments.
Well, I will mention that Mo Wagner is averaging 12.8 points a night on about 5 total rebounds a night with only about 18 minutes of play. And as much as Franz does not play, he's also only played 2 games this tournament. So obviously Franz Wagner's battling with some sort of injury, maybe is why he's not starting.
An
Because he's
ankle
only
injury.
played 2 games. So
An
he
ankle
might
injury.
start against the Americans. We'll see if that rings true. Dennis Schroeder obviously leading the way for the Germans, 18 points a game with 6 assists a game. And he had a horrible night in the quarterfinal
4 for 26.
against Latvia. And they still beat the lethal Latvians. They still won
Yep.
off of a Franz Wagner and 16 off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll see, but Cajun, as now we'll wrap her up. Final word, Canada versus Serbia. We predicted scores for Spain versus Canada. We didn't do it for Slovenia, Canada. Let's do it again. Serbia, Canada, Friday, 4:45 a.m., bright and early, over in Manila, in the Philippines. What do you got for the semifinal?
At the end of the day, this is going to be determined. For me, this is going to be determined by who's the best player on the floor. And if Jokic was on Serbia, then there'd be no contest in that. But he's not. And at the end of the day, SGA is the best player on the floor. And I think he the way they play Serbia, I believe, has the second most points per game out of any tournament, any team in the tournament.
Yes, they do. Yes, Serbia's second most points per game out of any team in the tournament, only behind the States.
Only behind the States. I'd argue that plays in favor of Canada if they play free flowing and fast paced. Now I will say this will be a somewhat close game. I think Canada wins. Let's just say I don't think they're going to score 100, but they'll be close enough to it. 95-88.
95-88 win for the Canadians. They go to their, I believe, first ever FIBA World Cup, as we talked about in our last episode during the game against the Spanish, that Canada has really struggled at this tournament previously. But, Cajun, you said 95-88. As I quickly look at the best World Cup results, Canada has never gotten this far. They've only managed to get sixth twice. I was thinking I was right by saying that, but I wanted to make sure I double checked myself. So this will be their best finish, no matter if they lose the next two games, Cajun. This will be their best finish ever at a FIBA World Cup. But I think they're arguably the second best, if not the best team here. And I think they prove it against Serbia. And now I'm not going to get as confident as I did against Spain, because that bit me, as we all know.
Mm-hmm.
But, big but here, Cage. I think Canada gets over a bill, and I think they win 104-94. I think it's an absolute shootout, and I think Canada wins that shootout. So you said 95-88. I think 104-94. But we both think the same thing, that Canada is off to their first ever FIBA World Cup final.
Yes, sir.
Which will be Sunday, September 10th, are the bronze and gold medal games, which we will bring you here on the Outrage Inc. But that'll be it here for us. For Cajun Theater, Dana Castle, I'm Spencer Byers. Thank you so much for taking us in here as Canada beats Slovenia 100-89. We'll see you on Friday. Well, we'll see you tomorrow for Polar Opposites as your regularly scheduled programming, but we'll see you Friday. Serbia versus Canada, 4:45 a.m. Live reactions from Cajun and myself, and then the bronze or gold medal game on Sunday. You love to see it, Cajun. But that'll be it here for us on Polar Opposites.
Oh, Canada.